Can you hear me? Yes. Lovely. All right. Hi, I'm Gil, and for most of my coding life, I thought I was a back-end person, and I'd say I still am. And front-end just always felt unapproachable, not because it was hard, but because it sucked. Like, it's really poorly designed. There's framework hell. Everything is poorly designed. And worst of all, JavaScript. JavaScript is bad. JavaScript was developed in 10 days. That is JavaScript code that you'll need to write if you want to do a fairly normal thing, which is like select something in the DOM, the document object map model, I don't know, one of those two. And there's no structure. If you look at JavaScript code, it's just a pain to maintain because there's no real way to enforce structure in your projects. Enter Svelte. Before I talk about Svelte, I want to briefly address alternatives like React and Angular. React and Angular both use something called a virtual DOM. This is fine. I think for the sake of this conversation, the problem that I have with it is page load. When you're using the virtual DOM, you'll get initial page load that's a lot slower on the client side. But more than that, I think the biggest advantage of Svelte, which is a framework for front end, in case I haven't made that clear yet, is it's just very, very easy to use. Svelte is a compiler, meaning that you'll write Svelte code on the back end, and then you'll build, and then it'll build into just vanilla JS, CSS, and HTML. So your bundle size will be really small, which means your page load is faster, but most of all, it's just really easy. Let's get a little into that. And this is an example right here of the difference between React code and Svelte code. I don't know if you can make it out, but this is React code on the left and Svelte code on the right. Svelte isn't easier because it's magic. Svelte is easier because it makes sense. None of this is crazy. None of this seems like you're skipping steps. It just works. Let's take a look at that. Does this work? It does. All right, and if you want to follow along, feel free to go to the website, svelte.dev, and you can see right here. Oh, wait, how am I going to hold it and type? All right, no. Wow, thank you. All right, so this is a very easy example right here of reactivity in Svelte. We can declare a variable up here and then just use it in our code. This looks a lot like just normal HTML where you have a script tag at the top. You can put JavaScript in there, but this is like HTML on steroids. Let's show another couple things that you can do. Let's say instead of using this name variable, we want to take an input. So we're going to take an input, and now we can bind the value of this input to name, just like that. And now, hello, Nico. Look at that. Works like a charm. Let's say we want to reverse it. This will get a little more complicated. The easiest way to reverse a string in JavaScript is going to be to take it, to turn it into an array with split, then to, what is it? Oh, wait. Then to reverse, and then to join it again. So all this does is reverse the string. And now let's display the reverse name right there. So initially this is going to work, but we're going to run into a problem if we want to say hi to Nico again. Now what's going to happen is because this only runs once initially, you're not going to see the result. It's not going to get changed over here. But Svelte gives us a shortcut for doing that really easily. Instead of let, we can use the special reactive declaration with a $sign and a colon. Believe it or not, this is actually valid JavaScript. It's not going to do anything with normal JavaScript, but you could type this in, you wouldn't get an error. And now you can see whatever we type in here, hello SRAM, that would give us hello Mars. Perfect. This reactivity lets you do a lot. Effectively, every single time any of the variables after this equal sign are redeclared, this will run again. That's how it works. Now, let's talk about SvelteKit. It gets even easier. SvelteKit is a full stack framework, meaning it's your back end and your front end. You can run JavaScript on the client side and on the server side. It uses file-based routing, which we'll take a look at in a bit, and it does server-side rendering. I thought of a good analogy for server-side rendering. Server-side rendering is like ramen. So when you have a page and now let's talk about ramen. When you're a ramen company, you want the user of the ramen, the eater, to do as little work as possible. So it's already pretty much done. The way server-side rendering works, almost all of the rendering happens on the server side, and then the page load on the client side is almost immediate. All that happens is the finishing touch, which is hydration. All of your dynamic code, after the page is already loaded, anything that should be on the page that was dynamic, it gets hydrated, like injected right in. So that's another thing that makes Svelte really, really fast. Now let's build a startup. I have maybe 5 minutes, but I think that should be enough time. We're going to run, thank you. We're going to run npm create svelte at latest, and we're going to name our directory app. And this is from the start. You can see on the bottom here, I don't know if you can see it everywhere, that we'll have a couple options. I'm just going to go with a skeleton project. A skeleton project, the other things are like for other examples. And here you can already see Svelte makes the developer experience really, really easy. If you want to add TypeScript to your code, be responsible. You should definitely do that. I'm not going to do that. We'll have a lot more options for responsible, good code practices. If in a big project, I'd recommend you use things like ESLint. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to skip ahead. And boom, a lot of stuff got created. The bulk of our project is going to be in SRC, the source directory. And there's two subdirectories in here. Routes, which is where all the routes are. We used file-based routing, so we'll talk about that more in a second. And lib. Lib isn't used on its own, but you'd like reference it in your routes. This is for code reusability. Lib helps a lot. So let's npm I, install all our dependencies. That should take just a second. Just a second. Perfect. npm run dev. What? Oh, wait, oops, I forgot the cd. That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to cd it into my app first. Then I'm going to npm I. And then I'm going to npm run dev. Perfect. And now we can see, we're not quite at a startup, but this is a nice page right here. Let's look what's going on here. So this page is right here. It's the page.svelte file in the routes directory. And this is our index. Svelte uses file-based routing. So let's say we want an about page for our startup. Nothing is here yet, but all we need to do is add a folder to our routes directory called about. We're going to add a new page.svelte in here. And boom. We have our HTML on steroids right here, ready to be used. About page. Please give us money. All right, core to any startup. And now we're back at home, and we want a way to navigate to about. So we could right here just add to our page.svelte an anchor tag that takes us, like a nav bar or an anchor tag that takes us to about. But let's do some code reusability. Let's instead, in our lib directory, make a navbar component. So we're going to go nav.svelte. We're going to make a list of anchor tags. And the first one is going to go to home. And the second one is going to go to about. Perfect. And now, if we want to use it, we could just copy and paste. We could just put our nav in all of these pages, and it'll work. We need to import it, of course. Normally, it does it for you. Just a second. There we go. All right. So we have our nav. We could just put it on page.svelte, and it'll be here. but when we go to about, it won't be there. So instead, we're going to use another sort of special SvelteKit file. One of them is page.svelte, another is layout.svelte. Layout.svelte is the parent of everything. So anything, you're going to put a slot on your layout, and everything else is just going to get inserted right in there. So this is, it's like a parent. So if we have put our nav right here, again, we're going to need to import it. Please do that. Thank you. Get rid of it from here. And now we'll see when we go back to our page. By the way, Svelte has hot reload, which makes WebDev a lot easier. Now this is going to be on every single page. So we have about maybe 3-4 more minutes. We still need to make our startup. What are we going to do? Well, of course, we're going to make a ChatGPT wrapper, the core of any startup. All right. Welcome to not SvelteKit. Welcome to the future and the AI assistant of your dreams. All right, how are we going to do this? Well, I have some code right here. This is pretty important. This is going to send a post request to OpenAI, and I could just plop this right in a script up here, but then we'd have a problem. And the problem was when I paste in my API key right here, every single time you make a request, the user's going to see it. And some user who's too smart is going to steal it, and you're going to lose a lot of money. So instead, we're going to put it in another sort of reserved special file, a server.js file. And everything that's in a server.js file is going to be run on the back end. So we're going to install OpenAI real quick. And now, everybody look away. This is essential. I'm going to make a new key. If you're looking, everyone close your eyes, actually. Yeah, close your eyes. All right, go. Perfect. No one saw it. Lovely. And now that's working. So now, oh wait, you can totally see it still. You can't see the last character, just don't guess. All right, so what I just programmed is whenever you make a post request, in this case to the index route, because that's where server.js is. So if you just go like fetch to like there, that route, then if you send a post request, then it'll respond with, in this case I have a ChatGPT virtual assistant responding in Pig Latin. Perfect. So, oh wait, was that gone? Oh well. I'm sure you've all heard me extraordinarily well. So now we'll go back here, and now we're going to add an input, just like what we learned earlier today. We can have our input. This is going to be your query here. We're going to have an output. Nothing here yet. And we can bind the value of our input to the query, or to our output. No, input. That would make a lot more sense. IntelliSense is not intelligent. All right, and now our output is just going to be rendered right here. Except, here's something really cool that you could do with Svelte very easily. Let's add a loading screen. So loading is going to be a Boolean. It's going to start off false. But whenever we send a fetch request to the back end, it's to OpenAI, it's going to set loading to true. And we can implement showing this loading screen very, very easily with Svelte with these special if statements. So we're going to say if loading, then we can show just loading. This should be P. A paragraph. Else, we're going to show the output. And then finally, we need to sort of conclude the if statement like this. Awesome. So now we need to actually make the get request, or the post request. I'm going to go back into, wait, where'd it go? Oh, here we are. Nobody look. Get answer. And what this is going to do, it's going to send a fetch request, like I said, to this route, and it's going to get the answer. Now, notably, if you want to organize your code a little bit better, you can make an API directory, and you can put server.js in there. And then instead of sending a fetch request to here, we sent it to /API. Awesome. So we're going to send in our input. We're going to send out our output. And then we're going to handle loading. So at the start, loading is going to equal true. And at the end, loading is going to equal false. Now let's take a look at our page, what it looks like right now. It's pretty good. We're going to need a button in here for submitting. And Svelte makes it really easy to do actions with components like buttons. In this case, we're going to use onClick. OnClick equals, and then we're passing a function in. In this case, it's going to be getAnswer. And I think we're done. We have our bajillion-dollar startup. We're going to send our query. Is this working? Query here. How to center a div. It's not working. Oh, wait, I see, yeah. I made that mistake earlier, too. Yeah, notably, I've made this mistake so many times. When you're passing a function into onClick, you're passing the function itself, not its value. So don't have your parentheses there. All right, how to center a div. Now it's going to work. Loading. Whoa, look. Was this a bajillion-dollar startup? Not quite. But let's take a look at, this is one of the top Y Combinator startups right now. AI agents that solve your customers' hardest problems. If you take a little look, one of the FAQs, frequently asked questions, is what happens if the OpenAI API is down? And they're like, we'll compensate you. So I think we know what they're using. The biggest difference between this website and a lot of the biggest startups in the world right now is the UI. And luckily, when you're using Svelte, there is a tremendous ecosystem to use to build really great UIs really easily. Some examples, I think Daisy UI is my favorite. Daisy UI. Here we go. It uses Tailwind, and it's on top of it. And this website is also in Svelte, just saying. And you can make really nice UIs with a bunch of components that come for free, and just plop them right in there. And you don't need to know anything about front end. You can just copy and paste. The key of Svelte is all the logic that's normally very difficult becomes easy, and the ecosystem just works. Now, some other ecosystem things that I just want to talk about really quick. Auth.js, it used to be just for React, but now it got taken over, and now it does authentication also for Svelte. It has native support for TypeScript, Playwright, ESLint, and vtest, and you can, in just a couple clicks, host a page online with Vercel. And yeah, I would super strongly recommend checking out SvelteKit if you want a really productive, enjoyable dev experience, which I really haven't found anywhere else in front end. Thank you.